Good morning, everyone. Today is 13 August, the year 2006. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson, a volunteer at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in California. Part of our mission is to record and preserve the history of our country's military conflicts, especially World War II. As part of the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., we conduct interviews of veterans and civilians who participated in those conflicts. Today, I'm here at the Sun Lakes Country Club in Southern California, and I'm at the beautiful Morris home with special guest Pat Morris. And today we have the honor and the privilege of interviewing Quartermaster Karl Morris. Quartermaster Morris was on the bridge of an assault transport, APA-12, in the Atlantic and the Pacific during World War II. So we're going to talk to him about that and a lot of other things. Nice for you guys to have me here, Karl.
Thank you.
Now, Karl, would you spell your full name for us, please?
Full name, Karl, spelling K-A-R-L, Wayne, W-A-Y-N-E, Morris, M-O-R-R-I-S.
Thank you. And when and where were you born?
West Des Moines, Iowa, on 12/10/1923.
1923. And what was your father's name?
My father's name was Charles Wesley
Morris?
Morris.
Yes. And how did he end up in Iowa? Where did your ancestors on your father's side come from?
My family, or his family, are all located in Peculiar, Missouri. But he was a farmhand. He did move up to Iowa to work on farms. That's where I spent a little time. But remember this during the Depression.
Yes.
So he traveled a lot.
Yeah.
Do you want me to continue?
Yes, please.
I was 5 years old when my mother passed away. I vividly remember the day, the time, the people involved. My father traveling on trains, Kansas, Missouri, wherever he could find work, placed us in the care of the most vicious, cruel woman that ever existed. It's hard to believe, but at 5 years old, I lived on the street till I was 13 years of age. My father not being there, I don't think he was aware of it. At 13 years old, I weighed 60 pounds. I was starved to death. I never slept in a house. I slept in a chicken house, my brother and I. We slept in right with the chickens. And anything, I'll admit it today, but to keep from starving, a grocery store was not safe, especially for peanut butter. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for peanut butter.
Speaking of being 5 years old, I see a photograph here.
Yeah, that's.
You want to hold that in front of you?
Yeah.
Let's get a little close-up on this. So that's that peanut butter swiper guy, huh?
You want me to continue?
Sure.
Well, anyway, when I was 13, I lived in about 4 different areas. My brother and I ate out of a dump, but it was a good dump. It belonged to the country club. Heads of lettuce, carrots, stuff. And you, at this age right here, I think 1928, you're looking at an individual that saw Herbert Hoover.
Really?
Yes.
Where was this?
In a parade in Des Moines, Iowa, when he was running for president. I sat on my father's neck, legs on the other side of his head, National Guard out, lining the streets, and he rode trains everywhere for work. I don't think that I saw him probably 4 times in 8 years.
You know, your story is unusual, but I've heard this before from veterans that I've interviewed who lived during the Depression, that either one or both of their, well, maybe one parent passed away or whatever, or there were a lot of kids in the family, and even if they had both parents, they didn't have any money, so the kids had to go to orphanages or live with grandparents or other people. And we don't, you know, nowadays you don't even hear about that, but it was somewhat prevalent, I think.
Well, I can tell you an incident with my sister. She's 2 years younger than I am. This individual made her, at 5 years old, sit out in a yard, stare at the sun with her eyes open to make her go blind. At the risk of my life, I would steal water, fruit jar lids, and take them to her. Hopefully unobserved, and I was. My grandparents finally took her and raised her, but the Depression, they could not take all of us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't heard stories about the cruelty that you're talking about, but as far as children having to leave their parents, I've heard a lot about it. I want to back up just a little bit, and let's talk about your mother. What was her maiden name? Your mother's, her
Jameson.
full name, and her first name? Her first, her
Faye Jameson.
This is her picture.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go get a picture of that. Yeah. And what was her background? What did her parents do, and where did
farm people?
They were farm people too. Well, she was really pretty, huh?
The Jamesons came out of Indiana in the 40s.
Oh, do you know where?
To Iowa.
Do you know where in Indiana?
They homesteaded ground.
Do you know where in Indiana?
What, Donnie?
Where in Indiana?
Do you know where in Indiana? I'm from Indiana. I was just curious.
I don't know where.
Yeah, okay.
I can get a history of the Jameson family. I do have one of the Morris family, if you're interested in that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to add to your.
But anyway, back in those days, railroads shovel coal. They'd load up the hoppers. Going down the track, coal would fall off. Cold, way below zero. I had no shoes. I had on heavy socks. I'm 13 years old. And this lady, I'll be kind, forced my brother and I to go out and pick up this coal to keep them warm in the house. And we did. We went back to the chicken house.
Expected the chickens to keep you warm, I suppose.
And the next day, sun real bright, cold, the door opened. There stood a man in a suit and tie. He shook his head, issued one order: get in that car out there. Somebody had turned her into the county. And we went out. Boy, was it warm. And we drove to 1548 Hull Avenue. I got a mind for these things. And they put us into a lockup for 3 days, not because we did anything wrong, for health reasons. There were other children. Then they took us to a hospital, had us checked out. Now we are allowed out among the group. At one time, there were 40 girls and 3 men, 3 boys. My brother, myself, and a kid called Herbert Dawson. But periodically, this guy would show up, and we're going relative hunting.
Going what?
Relative hunting?
Oh, okay.
Would you believe I didn't know where any relative was? I had a warm bed, I had food. I'm not about to tell you where my relatives are. But one time then he come out, put us in the car, took us to the county courthouse, room full of people, a judge, and we sat down on the benches. We found our name being called, and we went up, stood in front of the judge. He said, "You look old enough to make a decision what you would like to do. I am going to give you 2 choices. You can go to Boys Town, Nebraska, or you can go, and Aunt and Uncle are in the room. You can go work on a farm. They'll feed you, clothe you, school you." I never went to school until the 8th grade. But anyway, I turned around and I looked. I didn't recognize anybody. But I'm pretty defiant at this time. I began to feel my oats, shall we say. I looked at that judge, eye to eye, across the desk. "We will go to the farm. If I don't like it, we'll run away." And my brother's crying. He's older than I am. Very emotional. We did go to the farm. It was a dairy farm.
Okay, I want to back up here for a second. So how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have 1 brother and 2 sisters.
And what are their names? Or
Jackie, 2 years younger than me. And Dorothy, how old do you say Dorothy was?
She's 5 years older than you.
5 years older? Dorothy has since passed away. Jackie, she's in the mood right now to pass away, I guess. She's in Alabama. Her daughter hires somebody
And
to
Jim,
take care of.
Jim, your brother?
Huh?
And Jim, your brother? Jim.
My brother's in Phoenix,
his name's Jim?
and he's more stubborn than I am. And we do go back and forth at each other.
Okay, so let's go back to, so it's a dairy farm, and where is it? Is that near Des Moines?
A little town called Wwii, Indian name, probably 10 miles west of West Des Moines, on Highway 6, which was the transcontinental road at that time, Chicago to Santa Monica. And he ran a dairy farm. He farmed 200 acres. My brother instantly fell in doing work. They left me alone. They were advised to let me find my own way. And all of a sudden I realized, this is not that bad. So I started to work. I worked and I worked hard. Why, when you milk 30 cows twice like that, you know, we had an unusual herd. It was a cross between a brown Swiss and a Jersey. Rich milk, but also volume. People from all over. I recall somebody from Russia came to the farm one day. He'd heard about that herd. And I started the school in the 8th grade. My brother and I both did.
Now, your sister, was she still living with the other relatives? Was your sister still living with the
yes.
other relatives?
Yeah.
So it was just
My
you,
grandma
right?
and grandpa.
And both sisters were
Yes.
with that? Okay, so it was just you two boys on the
Yeah.
farm. Okay.
My older sister got married, and we were in touch with their daughter and son this date. And I started in 8th grade. My brother started in 8th grade. 26 people in a class.
What school was that?
Wwii Consolidated High School.
Oh.
And had no business being there. 110 students in 4 grades. 26 people in my class. And I flunked the first year, 8th grade. I could not fathom multiplication. I had no background for it. I had to wait and repeat the 8th grade. I got a D minus. Somebody sharpened up. They realized I'm not going to do it. And algebra, freshman, I flunked it. I went on with the class, sophomore geometry, I flunked it. Trigonometry, junior, I flunked it. And calculus, I think, as a senior, I flunked it. And before I graduated, the superintendent came to me. He said, by state law, you've got to pass algebra. So you're going to take it over if you wanted a diploma. I passed it, D minus. But anyway, I was the only one in that school. I'm self-taught. I read anything I could get my hands on, Bible, dictionary, whatever. And I was the only one in the entire school that could get up from my desk, walk to the library without permission. And I know this is difficult to believe, but we'd walk into a classroom, history class, biology, whatever. The teacher would be sitting in the back row. Yes, sir? Do you know the lesson today? Yes, sir. You teach a class, I'm tired. I taught class. And I guess I was considered pretty intelligent, self-taught, because during the war, I had a teacher one time, and boy did I hit him. I'm standing and I'm talking to him. The class is marching into the room, vibration, folding chairs down. I just said, excuse me, Mr. Carpenter, I will go pick those up. I turned around, walked 20 feet, leaned down, picked up a handful, stood up, he hit me, knocked me clear across the room. That was his mistake. Because I come off of that floor, I hit him so hard, it spread his forehead wide open, blood spurting. all over his suit. Then he wanted to go up and see the superintendent. I told him, go ahead, I'm not going. Then I finally realized that I'd end up there anyway. So let's go. We went up and he took a look at Carpenter. He said, you better go to the restroom and wash that blood off. You're a mess. So Carpenter left. And then he turned to me and I thought, oh boy. He said, what happened? I told him exactly what happened. You know what that man told me? Go back to your class. They fired the teacher. And I had so admired him, but a World War I vet, that even when I was in the service, come home on leave, I'd make it a point to go say hello and talk to him. The last time I saw him, he must have realized that there wouldn't be many more. And we were walking towards his door. He said, Karl, wait a minute. I want to tell you something. I have never told you before, and it's not only me, it's the popular consensus of all the teachers you ever had, that you're the most intelligent, well-informed individual we've ever taught. Now, how can you compete that?
That's great.
You can't beat it.
No. Did you play any sports in high school? Did you play any sports in high school?
That's the reason I ended up in the Coast Guard. My little school, 57 out of 59 baseball games. We were in the state championship. I took a fastball, broke my jaw, broke my eardrum. What I wanted was the Air Force. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. They wouldn't touch me. Navy wouldn't touch me. Army wouldn't touch me. Coast Guard, they did. And I'm quite fond of the Coast Guard.
Okay, let's back up for a second then. So, what year did you graduate from high school?
1942.
Okay.
May of
May
1942.
of 42. Okay, now do you remember what you were doing on December 7th, 1941?
Yes. I sure remember. I'm milking cows. But the strange thing about it, have you ever been around the farm?
Yeah, I grew up on a farm.
Well, then you know the cupboards. You take a pencil and you write the birth of a calf or whatever.
Oh, okay. I was not on a dairy farm though, so okay.
I wrote on that cupboard that we would be at war with Japan in 2 years. And it didn't even take 2 years. And that's only because of reading.
Mm-hmm.
And you can foresee it.
So that wasn't a big shock to you like it was to a lot of people.
Oh, Lord, no. Big shock only because I think that we were so stupid not to recognize it. And I don't know, I couldn't wait to join. I graduated in May of 42. I had a heat stroke in August on the farm, 103 degrees, working all day long, threshing oats. And the doctor said to my uncle, he can't work here anymore. So I went down, big city, got a job as a bank messenger, and the bank messenger had to go to the courthouse every day and pick up warrants and whatever. I passed all the recruiting stations. I badgered the hell out of him, but it didn't work. In October of 1942, I took my oath as a Coast Guardman.
Now, you said that you had wanted to be a fighter pilot. Had you been interested in aviation for a long time?
Oh, I went home on leave in 1945, bored to death. And what else is there to do for an excitement? I guess I'll learn how to fly a plane.
Oh.
Cost $100. A Ronka Champ, if you know what they are.
I've seen pictures of them.
And a great little plane. And I got my license in '61. I'm rated on almost all single-engine aircraft. And my thoughts are still with flight. I still would like to have been a fighter pilot. I used to go down to New Guinea, get off of the ship, crawl on the mailboat, go into Hollandia. 5 miles up was an airstrip, Corsairs, everything. And boy, when they come back from a duty, they'd buzz that field, then up and out. And sometimes they get too damn anxious, they'd run over each other. One prop would chew the tail off the one head.
Yeah.
But I used to go up there and watch by the hours.
Okay, let's go back then. Okay, so you joined the Coast Guard. Where did you go for your basic training?
Curtis Bay, Maryland, outside of Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Curtis Bay still exists, but it is now I've taken Pat there. Now it is a ship overhaul place. Cutters, destroy escorts, whatever the Coast Guard might have.
What's the relationship between the Coast Guard and the Navy?
At that period of time, the Coast Guard was under the Treasury Department. When the war started, Coast Guard were moved under the Navy. Now, surprising enough, there were 15 ships in our flotilla. The Admiral rode our ship. Navy Admiral and his staff. We carried 15 doctors for operations. We'd land them on the beach, then bring them back. Constant. We have set the world's record. We had 32 Higgins boats on board, 4 LCMs. We have set the world's record, which is recognized as unloading the ship and troops in record time. My first landing was in...
Well, okay, let's get back a little bit. Let's go back to a little bit about your training. What was that like?
The what?
Your training. Your training.
Okay, I left boot camp, got assigned to Accomack, Virginia. And it's on the eastern shore of Virginia, a town called Accomack. Cape Charles, the ferry used to run from Norfolk to Cape Charles. And then I had to hitchhike 50 miles to get to the station. And there we had dogs, and we watched. It's hard for people to understand that in 1943, when I was stationed on that patrol watch between New York and Miami, there were 483 ships sunk by German subs, and you could see one every night.
Mm.
Our instructions were, we loaded up a Jeep, we'd take 2 dogs, go to a line shack right down on the ocean, on an island 5 miles off called Metomkin Inlet. And the dogs slept under the line shack, you slept above. So when your turn came, you'd take a leash. A dog would never bother you when you had a leash in your hand. You'd snap it onto him. You'd go down and you'd be walking by yourself, 2.5 miles, 2.5 back. You had a Very pistol, you had a gun, and that was about the extent of it. Now, when you walked, that dog, you reached down, take a leash off from him. That dog was so well trained, he'd walk by you for a period of time without any command whatsoever. He would disappear. And then he would circle way up in the dunes. The next time you saw him, he'd come out 200 feet behind you. And then next time you saw him, right here, he's walking.
I know the Germans would spy, or they'd bring their submarine. The Germans would bring their submarines, and then their spies would come onto the shore.
Yeah.
I suppose that's what you were looking
That's
for
what we
mainly,
were
weren't
doing.
you?
And your first instructions were, if you observed any unusual activity, the very pistol goes off.
That lights up the sky
Yes.
or has a flare. Yeah.
And then you're on your own, they tell you. But they sealed the beach off on the mainland.
I meant to ask you, the Coast Guard uniform and the Navy uniform, was there any difference between the two at that time?
No. The only difference was a white shield. Where is that, honey? The picture of me in the uniform?
Well, it doesn't show your arm.
Oh.
It just shows your
Yeah, we don't see it.
collar.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know
Yeah.
whether the shield shows or
it
not.
doesn't show. Well, might as well. This would be a good one. This is.
You carry that on your right arm.
Let's take a look at that.
I mean your left arm.
Uh huh.
And it's a white shield.
Let's just put that like that. I'll see. Yeah.
And that ID'd you as a Coast Guardsman. We did get into verbal fisticuffs with the Navy, because here we are with all those battle ribbons. I was at San Pedro one time. We just got off the Liberty boat, and a chief petty officer walked up to us, ordered us to take those medals off, that you were not entitled to wear them. And one thing led to another, and Walt, which Pat knows, hit him, knocked him down. It finally got to the point that the captain of the ship had to fill out badges telling shore patrol, whoever, that you were entitled to wear those. And my first landing, if you want to hear about that.
Well, I do, but I want to kind of go through the steps how you ended up getting to your first landing. So now you're doing patrol duty. So when do you get assigned to go overseas and to your ship and stuff like that?
Well, 18 years old, 5 days you work, 2 days you're off. You go up to Salisbury, Maryland on Liberty. You don't drink, you don't smoke. So if you want female companionship, where do you go? You go to the corner drugstore. And I did. Met a lot of nice young ladies, and one in particular. And I was there probably 4 or 5 months.
What was her name? What was her name?
Doris Smith. And there's another story in itself. But anyway, I woke up one morning. I didn't feel good. I was flushed. I was burning up. And I knew what my problem was. Measles. So they put me into a boat. We went out in the middle of the ocean. The pharmacist came down from Chickateg, Virginia. We met in the middle of the water. He said, "You got the measles." Oh, is that right? Well, anyway, they cut papers for me to go to the Naval Hospital. Now we got to go back to the main station. We had a Jeep. We had to get that out. Take me 50 miles to Cape Charles. And then I got on the ferry. 2.5 hours it takes a car ferry. And I get to the other side. I don't know where Norfolk Hospital is, Naval Hospital. So I did the unspeakable. I stopped shore patrolmen. And they took me to the hospital. It's now 10 o'clock at night. And boy, am I beat. And I'll never forget, I tingle right now, the feeling I got when I slid down between 2 sheets. I was burning up. I was no good. And I stayed there about 7 days. And then I had to get back out. I caught the ferry over, hitchhiked up. And when I got up there, I called, we had a phone in a jeep shed to the main island, to the Potomacan Inlet. I called and told them I was there, we'll send the boat in, pick you up, 5-mile trip. And when I got out there to the station, I found out I had lost my job. They had to bring somebody in to fill in. What they did was they had another little spit with a line shack. You ate and slept, everything in that one little line shack, half the size of this room, 4 guys. And they transferred me over to there because that guy had come over and took my place. And then came out the call, sea duty, anybody wants it? Boy, my name goes on. And all of a sudden they cut the orders. I talked my buddy into doing it also. I just talked to him this morning, and we went down to Leonard Wood, was then dry dock. She was being refitted. She used to be a luxury liner. And the stairs and everything, tearing them out. And their workers just swarmed that place. My buddy made a mistake. He reported to the personnel department. I'm catching on. I didn't. And every welder on board a ship, even today, they have to have a fire watch. Big extinguisher. So they come around at about at night. We need a fire watch. I'm sorry, I'm just visiting. So when we took off, we took the 45th Division out of Oklahoma to Iran, Africa, Marcel Kabir, is where we docked. That's where I saw my first violence. We had 5 hours liberty every day. You had to be off the streets at 5 o'clock. So I took liberty and went into the town, modern town. And on the way there, I saw a black guy knifing another guy. That's my first experience. And then we stayed there. Then the worst storm in the history of the Mediterranean occurred. And we left for Sicily. We went down towards Malta and then back up. We landed at 5 o'clock in the morning. Wind still blowing, ship still rocking. And I got in my boat, PA 1210. They lowered the boat. The troops crawled down cargo nets into the boat.
This was a Higgins boat?
Huh?
So this was a Higgins boat?
Yes. And then we let through the beach. I was a machine gunner.
Okay.
Crew of 4. And we left for the beach.
This is in Sicily? This
Huh?
is the invasion of Sicily?
Yes. Scoglady was the name of the town. But anyway, the third trip in, my boat that I was in got beached about 35 foot up. No way to get it off. So the only sensible thing to do is to wait till another boat comes from the ship, crawl aboard and go back. While I'm waiting, lo and behold, I looked up the beach. You think Karl Lewis is the fastest human in the world? No way. Here come 3 German fighter planes, straight from the beach. And boy, I started digging. And I dove behind a pile of supplies. I could hear them peeling off, like that. That means you can get up. What I had hid behind was a pile of ammunition. A quarter of a mile more, I couldn't even kiss my butt goodbye. And so anyway, then I'm still waiting. I hear clank, clank, clank. I look up about 2.5 miles away. Here comes 3 German Tiger tanks. Well, the British had got smart. They floated a 16-inch gun in there on a monitor. 2 shots from that gun, that was the end of that. Well, I did make it back. But you know the most exciting time that I ever got in the service? Where's a picture of the ship, honey?
Behind you.
Would you believe that right here is 154 foot above the water?
Wow. Wow.
Now every ship, Navy ship, Coast Guard ship, has a commission pennant. That pennant is must fly at all times. It's a long streamer, is what it is. 154 foot. The ship's underway. 15, 20 degree roll. I am low on the pole. Who gets selected to go up there and replace that? And I did.
Wow.
And I put the pennant in my teeth, and I crawled up that mast, got up there, hooked my leg around the mast, and put the pennant where it should have been. And would you believe I made a foolish mistake? I allowed myself one look down. I'm over the water on the starboard side. I'm over the water on the port side. And I can't swim. I probably couldn't have survived a 154 foot fall anyway. But anyway, my eyes got glued to that mast. It never left. And then I get back down. I sat in the crow's nest, which you can see. Sat there for a half hour before I had guts enough to cut down all the way.
How did you get up the mast?
Huh?
How did you get up the mast? How did you climb up there?
Well, they have permanent rungs.
Oh, okay.
Permanent rung, just like a ladder.
I see. Yeah.
No safety equipment whatsoever. You weren't supposed to have, I guess. Well, I'll tell you what, I made 8 of those invasions.
Sicily was your first one?
Sicily is the first,
Okay. So then from there, where did you go then?
Macon,
Oh, that-
Tarawa.
Wow. Okay.
Then from there, Kwajalein and Anahuac and Saipan, Peleliu, Angkor, Lady, Luzon. By the time I had my fill of them, I'm going to tell you, I think that this is a vivid, still sticks in my memory. I don't think it'll ever wash out till the day I die. Kwajalein, I don't recall which one we hit first. My boat was the first one to hit the beach. And it could be Anahuac or Kwajalein. But Kwajalein, I think it was. And then Anahuac right next to it. They shelled that for 72 hours. Battle wagons, destroyers, army from Kwajalein. So 72 hours later, we pick up these poor guys off of Kwajalein. Now you're going to take another trip. And so we get in there. The ramp goes down, they go off. I'm up standing at the head of the boat on the beach. I look to my right, the most amazing sight I've ever seen. Here was a white missionary, a lot like you, with 3 little children, hand in hand, walking. And how they survived, I have no idea. But they did. I've had fun in my life.
I want you to meet a gentleman who helps me do these interviews at the Air Museum, and he was a Navy coxswain on the Higgins boats.
Navy what?
Coxswain, he drove the Higgins boats
yes,
on the invasions, and he was in the invasion, a lot of them like you. I think you may have probably were in the same task force, because he talked about Macon and Kwajalein and Eniwetok and
He
Lady.
probably was in our group.
I bet he was. And
Do you know what ship?
I can't remember the name of it right now.
There were 15 Navy ships.
Yeah.
No, 14.
Yeah.
We were the only Coast Guard.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure he was one of the other ships, and I'll find out and let you know. And when you guys come down,
we would like to come down.
yes, and I'll make it a point that he's there, and you can meet him and talk to him about this stuff.
But anyway, you learn not to make friends with the Army. You practice maneuvers, Maui, Chesapeake Bay, and you learn not to make friends. I recall one, he and I got pretty close together. He was a lieutenant, in charge of a squad. I don't recall where it was. I think it was Macon. He stepped foot on the beach, right there. And that shakes you up a little bit. I think the most fun I've ever had was I was at the wheel, steering the ship, going into the invasion of Lady. And we carried a Navy Admiral. Now I'm steering the ship, I'm on the helm, but the speaker tube is right behind me, because that's where the quartermaster's desk is also. And all of a sudden I heard over that speaker tube, the PBX, flag is ordering full stop 0, emergency stop 0. I looked at our bridge, nobody heard it. That's not even my duty, but I do recall that we had an officer that was all-American at Texas. His name was Cooper, and over the bedlam of the bridge, I yelled loud enough that I got everybody's attention. Mr. Cooper. Everybody turned around and looked at me. Flag is ordered, emergency stop 0. Stand by to exit. He ran to the tube, voice tube, from the flag. And the chief quartermaster ran to the telegraph. He slipped and fell down to stop it. And Cooper just got to the speaker tube. Flag, execute emergency stop 0. So if you hadn't been on the hook, but what I got a kick out of was that invasion, the Jap planes, fighter planes, would come down water high, right among the ships. And no way you could shoot at them. Hit the ship next to you. And finally they devised a way to take care of that. They had baby flat tops in our group. And they launched 3 Corsairs. That Jap would come down. There'd be one on either side of him, one behind him. If he tried to stall, goose him, they'd take him out, clear his ships, shoot him down. You watch this all day long. They had to be stupid. Now what do you need?
Well, I was just going to tell you this gentleman, his name's Milt Ray, that I was telling you about, that was in all the same invasions as you. He's the one one of the guys who just published his own book. And he talks about all of his invasions and all this stuff. So I'll show you that too, because I know you had an idea,
Okay.
and you'll get an idea, and he can talk to you about how he did that and
Did
stuff.
he write it himself?
He did. He wrote it himself. Uh-huh. Yeah. he
Well, I'm
did.
not that well versed.
Well, he'll talk to you because he wasn't either, and and he had, I think, his daughter or somebody kind of helped him with it, but you'll enjoy talking to him.
Well,
I tell you what, I'm getting close to where I need to change tape, so this might.
I said, get the hell out of there. He jumped in the troops, run a bayonet through his hand.
Ooh.
So this was the officer, and he was kind of new to it, and thought there were bees or something, and it
Yeah.
was the Japs shooting at you. Yeah.
Actually, we got a lot of those. They were,
Thank you.
we had academy people, but also we had so-called 90-day wonders. And the academy people pretty well knew what they were doing, but it's surprising when you weren't up here on the bridge, you had a deck watch officer in charge, clear people on and off. He had a quartermaster there, and surprising enough, you knew more than they did. If I'd see a 2-star admiral driving up, what do I do now? That was a good ship, though.
How many?
SS Western World.
That's what the it.
It ran to South America. It's fully explained there.
Okay, but it was converted to the.
Amphibious.
Yeah.
And given to the Coast Guard because of our small boat expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually trained Navy people, like up in Chesapeake Bay and over in Maui, we trained them.
Mm-hmm.
But you're the hooligans, hooligan Navy. That's what they call you.
Is that right? So you were over there. When did you come back then to the States?
I came back after the invasion of Luzon. I made the invasion of Leyte, made the one at Luzon. We came back to the States.
Were you over there when Halsey took off after the Japanese battleships and
Yes.
all that? Okay. Where were you about that time, or what was
We
going on?
were in the Philippines. Matter of fact, we got orders to run. And we did run. We went out to sea. And if you recall, those baby flat tops,
You're right. Saved the day.
yes, saved the day.
Taffy 3 or something like that.
But when we came back to the States for an overhaul, rejuvenated invasion of Japan, I got a little bit of Dutch. We had 21-day leaves, starboard and port. I'm starboard. In the port side gone home, I could get off the ship every night. But I crawled on the damn streetcar and went till I never saw another uniform. And then 2 or 3 blocks, I got off. I found myself in front of a small hotel in the suburbs. It's still San Francisco though. And I went in, registered, they charged me $5 for a room. But it had a Hammond restaurant. That's where I ate my meals all this time. And finally some guy, when I'm in there, he's associated with that Wallach's family?
Wallach's Music.
Huh?
Wallach's Music City.
Yes. He was associated with it. He was a relative. And he come over, introduced himself. He said, "Where do you stay? I see you in here all the time." I said, "Upstairs." "Don't waste your money. I got a 2-bedroom apartment across the street.
Wow.
Here's a key." And so I stayed there quite a few times. Now it's time to go on my leave. I got nothing but an aunt and uncle. Do I want to waste my money? But anyway, I ate at Hammond's one night, walked across the street. There sat Wally with 2 girls. And he introduced me to them. I'd had a couple of drinks. It was hot. Boy, was it hot. I hit the head and throwing up. All of a sudden I felt somebody rubbing my temples and my forehead. One of these girls. She was actually a beautiful girl, and if she had any ideas, I dispelled them right from the start. She had a husband overseas. I would not get involved with you, other than friends. So Irma said to me, one night I'm about 10 days into my leave, "Don't you think you ought to go home?" Irma, when I met you, I had $1,200. That was a fortune. I have only about 200 left. The next night, I met her every night. We had dinner, talk, whatever. And She gave me an envelope, $500. Go. So I did. And I got back there and bored to death. What did I do? Learn how to fly. So I did. Now I'm running late, and I know it. Fred is my instructor. Fred, I can't take any more flying lessons. I've got to get back to San Francisco. I've got to go to Oskaloosa and catch the train. That's 50 miles away. He said, no, well, let's fly down there. You need the experience anyway. So I did. Landed in a cow pasture right beside the train depot. If you don't think I didn't shake that town up, I still got in there 4 or 5 girls' names that signed my book. And so now I catch a train, I'm going to make it. Grand Junction, Colorado. In those days, they hooked 2 steam engines to go over the mountains. We had a 45-minute delay in steamboat, Grand Junction, I mean. I didn't know whether they were hooking one on. It didn't matter to me anyway. I got off the train, crossed the street, in a drugstore, counter, had a Coke. The girl served me, got talking to me. She said, well, why don't you stay overnight? I said, no, I can't do that. And then she kept harping on it. I said, where would I stay? I stay with my folks, and I'm sure they'd be happy to have you. They'd like to talk to you. So I ran back to the train, got my bag off, stayed overnight. You know what CRA is? Cover your ass.
Oh, CYA, yeah.
So I went to the Red Cross, had them send a telegram to the ship that I was ill. I had to get off the train. And they gave me $5 on top of it. So I went to the ship, and of course, I was well known by all the officers. And a particular friend of mine, commander, he's on the OD. Then the flag, he looked at me, half-assed smile. So you're sick, huh? I said, yes, sir, but I'm feeling better. He said, you'll have to go down, check in with the doctor to make sure. I went down. The doctor said, there's nothing wrong with you. I said, I know it. He looked at me. He said, how would you like to get off? We're headed for the invasion of Japan. 5,000 kamikaze. Would I like to get off? I said, how would I do that? He waved a pencil in front of my eyes. I signed my name and you're gone. He said, you've been on here a long time. A long, long time. So I thought about it a little. And, okay. Why not? I don't need the experience. I don't need the death. But, so they transferred me over to Treasure Island to the Naval Hospital. I sat there for 2 months. Nothing. And then all of a sudden, the wounded are coming back from the South Pacific. They need that facility. So they made up a hospital train all the way to Fort Eustis, Virginia. Army fort, turned into a naval hospital. I had never seen a doctor or anything. So I got there, Fort Eustis, and I got in trouble there also. Army fort, they don't have any fences. Who was that?
Oh, I'll tell you later.
What?
I'll tell you later. You're busy
All
right
right.
now.
But anyway, no fences. And they had mess hall and all that, bed checks. And this friend of mine, Eddie, I can't remember his last, had a girlfriend in D.C. He wanted me to go with him. I said, Eddie, I don't even have a Liberty card. I can't get off here. And he said, well, think about it. Well, the only thinking I'm going to do, how in the hell do I get off? I go stand by the curb in uniform. Turn down 3 or 4 rides. Are you going over? Yeah, but I'm waiting for somebody. Here comes a 2-star flag. He stopped. You going over? Yes, sir. Get aboard. So I went over. And anyway, shortly after that, I come back the next morning. I had to go to the brig until somebody ID'd me. But anyway, now I get on the hospital train. Eddie wants me to get off the base. I'm not looking for trouble, but I'm not avoiding it either. So what I did was, I walked off of the base, and I knew, but at first I went to the pharmacist mate in charge of the ward. His name was Karl. Karl, when you walk by my bunk tonight and you don't see me, what are you going to do? He said, I'm not going to walk by your bunk. In other words, go. So I did. Next morning in D.C., all the sailors sleeping in circles on the floor, waiting to get on a bus. I'm late. I get back to the base 10 after 8. Karl, to protect himself, had to take appropriate action. I never condemned him for it. And now I got to go up. Do you know what a captain's mast is?
Yes.
Go up to a captain's mast.
I've served on him before.
Pardon me?
I served on him. I was in the Navy for 6 years as a dental
were you?
officer. Yeah, so I know.
And I went to captain's mast. In the meantime, master of arms, check in the morning, out at night, and whatever. Summer court-martial, deck court-martial. My God, what am I getting into? But anyway, it's my turn. The captain looked up at me. He said, guilty or not guilty? And I said, guilty. Why? I said, I just had to get away, in a quiet voice. And I'll hold you over till next week. So next week, now, all I got to do is report Master of Arms, morning and night. Next week I go in. He raised his head and he looked at me. He said, you know, you got one hell of a war record. I said, yes, sir. That's the reason I had to get away. Case dismissed. But anyway, that was the Naval Hospital, and I filled out umpteen papers, got transferred to St. Louis. Coast Guard, you always went to where you enlisted or closest to be discharged. And I don't know what I was doing, but about 6 months after I got out, I got a check, disability check, for about $1,200. And what did they call it at that time? Combat fatigue or some damn thing. They just automatically stuck that tag on me. And 50% for one long time. Then I came to California, 10%. They cut it. Now I go to the VA for my diabetic condition. And I'll be doggone if they don't make an appointment for me. Where did we go?
Loma Linda.
No, that doctor. Well, he was not in Loma Linda. He was in an office complex. And I guess he was, what do you call him? Fool with your mind?
Oh, a psychiatrist?
Huh?
Psychiatrist?
Psychiatrist.
Yeah,
or something like that.
psychiatrist.
Yeah.
He went in, I went in, talked to him, and he said to me, I spent 15, 20 minutes there. You're okay. Why are you here? I don't know. Well, would you believe that an honesty pays off? Today, I receive almost $800 a month from that. And we're lucky.
Yeah. Well, okay, so now when you got discharged, did you go back to school, or did you go to work, or what did you do?
No, I went back to where I was the bank messenger, and I avoided the farm, and then I was quite athletic. I was scouted by the major leagues in 1942. I was still in high school. And I played on a softball team, high-speed softball team. I mean, it was no pitch alley-oop.
Yeah, fast pitch.
It was fastball.
You went to college?
And at that time, I played on that softball team. What did you ask?
Well, did you go back to college, or did you go to college or go to school?
I went to college for 1 year down in Virginia. Salem, Roanoke College in Salem, Virginia. But then circumstances didn't allow that. I came back to Des Moines. I was married at that time. My father-in-law was superintendent of a steel fabrication plant, and I went to work there. The dirtiest job in the place. The boss's son-in-law, you know you're going to get stuck. But I did work my way up. I worked my way up to a template maker, if you know what that is, pattern maker, for steel beams and whatever. I did work on the St. Louis Arts,
Really?
and
This was, where were you living at this time?
Des Moines, Iowa.
In Des Moines, okay. Now, and where did you meet your wife, your first wife?
That's a story in itself. I was driving into a gas station. There was about 4 girls sitting on the island. And one of them I heard, "Keep your hands off, he's mine." It wasn't her though. It was her girlfriend. And through her I met her. We were young when we got married. It was a mistake. And I've got the best wife in the world now.
Did you have any, did you and
And
she, did you have any children? Did you two have any children? Your first wife? And
yes, Playboy. He worked there for 12 years.
What's his name?
Kerry. Kerry.
Okay.
He's a good boy. He came, was going to get drafted. He came to me and wanted my advice. And he was talking Canada, and I said, "No way. Can you do that?"
This was during the Vietnam? This was
Yeah.
during Vietnam?
So I said to him, "I just read where Nixon opened up the regular army to 2-year enlistment. Go join." So he did. He went up to Northern California. He and another guy were the only regular army people. He got called into barracks one time. Hush, hush. Offered an opportunity to work in the White House. He turned it down. But anyway, he ended up his 2 years by teaching other people how to drive trucks. Then he got out. He went to college, graduated from Brooks, Santa Barbara, and went to work for Playboy. He was in Mexico City, that earthquake.
The earthquake? Oh, wow.
He opened his door, looked down 14 floors. But he finally opened the door and he found a way to get down. And 5 minutes after he got down, the whole damn place fell.
Wow.
Playboy sent in a private jet to pick up the whole crew, which was all right.
What kind of work did he do for Playboy?
Photographer.
Oh, really? Oh. So that's where okay, when he went to Brooks, he learned photography.
Yeah.
That's what he was interested in.
And he's a good kid. But
Does he have any
my
children?
wife was the first wife, too much of a child. And I'm an adult. I've gone through all this crap. I don't have time for whimsy. I don't have time for this or that.
So how long did you work for your father-in-law then?
Till I almost lost my fingers.
What happened?
I was working on a Saturday. They had you know what a donkey is?
Mm-hmm.
It's
like a little train, like.
railroad car.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go out to the yard, pick up a 4x8 sheet, a plate, and put it on a donkey. Now I am coming back I got my head down, somebody closed the damn door. It's just the open door. That size, it's not going through. And that hit him.
Oh.
And I said to myself, in looking around, I saw where limbs were gone. Is this how I'm going to end up? No, I'm not. I was playing softball, and actually selling would be part of my deal. I've always been a good sales rep. And my brother worked for the newspaper, and somebody asked him, "You got a brother, is he working?" I'd like to talk to him anyway. So I went over. Do you know what a food brokerage is? They handle a multitude of products.
Okay.
And you go to warehouses like Stater Brothers, sell them. I sold an article that when I left this gentleman, $2.5 million a year for the state of Iowa. Kool-Aid. He had fly swatters, he had other things. And then my brother worked at a newspaper, Major. The manager of that paper said, "You got a brother, what's he doing?" "Oh, he's working. I'd like to talk to him." So I went over, talked to him. Now I got a public relations job, calling on 5 states, all the big livestock dealers and all. And all you do is go in, hi. I remember going to Sioux City stockyards. I always timed it to let people know I'm in 5 states I'm around.
So who were you working for then?
Des Moines Register and Tribune.
Okay, for the paper.
Newspaper. As I walked in, there'd be the noon broadcast of the stocks and everything. And old Hart Jorgensen would see me open the door to the studio. "Excuse me, folks, my good friend Karl Morris just walked in to the studio." Now everybody in 5 states knew that you were around. And that was quite a deal, but I got tired of traveling. Then I went to work. I had a call from California. Strangely enough, doctor, I had a pretty good reputation at getting the job done. But in the meantime, then I went on the highway patrol, state trooper. There were over 1,200 applications for 29 spots. Out of that 1,200, they interviewed 250 chief, lieutenants, and they zeroed in on you. Out of that 250, they chose 49 to go to academy, school, or whatever. Out of the 49, 29 of us made it. And
What did you drive?
huh?
What kind of car did you drive when you were on duty?
Well, at that time, Chevrolets, Fords, Plymouths, they didn't have a really good choice. Where is the one?
Oh, that new one.
That, huh?
The new one?
The ones they use now.
Yeah, they're pretty. But that's not what you drove.
But nobody could outrun you, except one woman. I got the speedometer pegged, and I'm sure she does too. But the only reason she got away, big hill. My engine blew up.
Oh.
Oh, my hip. God almighty.
I'm gonna take that out of the film.
Well.
Well, anyway, I stayed there,
Did you want his picture in the?
and
Oh, yeah, okay. That's right. I was wondering what that
to
was.
be honest about it,
Yeah, it's,
yeah, that's me. Didn't it look like me?
sure.
Huh?
Yeah. It does. So what years were you with the Highway Patrol?
48, 52.
I see. Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah.
But after the war and all the carnage
Yeah.
and on this job, I finally decided that I had my fill. And what made that decision, from 2 to midnight, we doubled up in riding. One night I drove, next night my buddy drove. He was driving that night. He left me off at 11:45. I went into my house, hadn't even taken my gun off yet.
What did you carry? What kind of
Huh?
what kind of weapon did you carry?
Go get it and show him. No, 38,
38.
police special, Smith & Wesson.
Okay.
But anyway, I've got one in here. That was my backup gun that I've got.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'm reading the mail. The damn phone rings. And I actually said this. Millie, no. I knew who it was. Dispatcher. She come on the line, said we got a bad 540 accident with injury. 1020 is here. 191's on his way back from Waverly. He'll meet you there. So I went down, trumped on it, siren and red lights, away we go. I get there. 2 cars, head on. We find a report, 150 miles an hour when they hit. The one couple was celebrating their anniversary. Their feet went through the firewall, laying on the engine. That's how fast I got there. The other one was a nurse, well-known band members, Tiny Hill. You ought to remember Tiny Hill.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
4 members of his band were with her. Did you know a dying person can get rough? I held down 2 of them till they died. Now in Iowa, we take scoop shovels to scoop the snow so your car can move, right? Not this night. I took shovel full of blood off of the curb. And I didn't get home till 4 o'clock in the morning.